Should disaster strike Forsyth County, the Winston-Salem Forsyth County Office of Emergency Management is ready to coordinate the response.
Let's get some better information before we deploy resources, I guess is what I'm saying.
On a regular basis, emergency management coordinates drills to test and hone its emergency operations procedures. These can range from tabletop drills to full-scale exercises involving staff, city officials, law enforcement, fire, EMS, medical providers, volunteer agencies, and others. A recent drill allowed emergency management to test multi-agency response to a natural disaster. It involved multiple locations and mass casualties across Forsyth County.
Respond to Shallowford Park at 6555 Shallowford Road. We had a report of a tornado touchdown with multiple injuries.
I can't get out.
It looks like right now we have multiple casualties. So right now they're doing what's called the scene size up and assessment. We do know there's multiple victims, so they're trying to locate those victims and start to begin the treatment process to get those victims out of here. And also, based on the scope and scale, we may have to look at activating the Emergency Operations Center. As you can see, it's a pretty large area. They've got to start keeping track of all the units that are on scene. They have to start making decisions. There's widespread damage throughout the area, so you have to start, even on the calls, you have to start triaging the calls, prioritizing the calls. And you also have to remember, there's still the rest of Louisville and Clemens and the county that they still have to be able to run calls to. So you're triaging resources and calls because we're kind of limited right now.
And can you walk?
Okay, has EMS set up their triage area yet? Where are we going to do that at? Up by the wagon, we'll start moving patients?
The tape is what's called a triage system, and that is in a disaster situation of any type. You have to be able to identify the difference of who's the most critical to who's can get up and walk away on their own, which would be green, and then the red, which is more traumatic injuries. And you may even have, with an event like this, black, which is deceased. And that's called the triage system, which allows, when you have this many victims, you have to start making some decisions on priorities. Because we only have so many ambulances, so many medics, so many firefighters.
I need a backboard. We need to move her off of this site.
Yeah, I agree.
The tags are what are called triage tags, and that's once the firefighters or medics find them and put hands on them, they'll do a casualty tag, a triage tag, and that's what's telling them what they found. Here's what we found on the victim, because that information's used to keep track of them. They'll use it at the hospital when they get there. Those that have minor injuries may stay here for a while, because we don't want to overload the hospitals. On a normal day, if you twist your ankle or whatever, you may go to the hospital. On a disaster situation, you just may stay here for a while, and they'll try to treat you the best they can.
If somebody's at green, take care of those patients.
They're at green. Military's at green. Take care of those patients.
Drop in and help transport over, okay?
During this drill, a state medical assistance team set up an alternate care facility at West Forsyth High School to care for the injured.
It was a severe weather event in Louisville, and the hospitals were at capacity, and so we had identified the need to open up an alternate care facility, thus the patients being brought here. Any medical surge, we kind of try to eliminate the medical surge at the hospitals, and when the hospitals are at capacity, they can bring patients here to kind of help their situation.
The range of care is dependent upon the physician level, the personnel that we have show up, physician level, paramedic level, such as that. Today we just happen to have physician level, so we can provide physician level services.
Your minor patients, minor trauma, anything major would have to get sent out to a trauma center. The staff here are the Triage Hazmat 2. It's a State Medical Assistant Team 2, which is hosted by Wake Forest Baptist Medical Center. We consist of 18 counties and 27 hospitals, but we have volunteer team members from all the hospitals within our jurisdiction, and also hospital from Baptist, staff from Baptist Hospital. In real life, if we had to deploy, you're probably looking at an hour for team activation. I'd say anywhere from 6 to 8 hours. We could be on the road, and then we'd have to set up.
26 green and 9 yellow.
We typically try to go out and do some pre-planning on these type of events, which is exactly what this is. But we also have some online selection tools that are available to us that we can basically check box if a facility would satisfy the needs to set up an alternate care facility.
Next 10 to 12 hour report, thunderstorms, wind, hail, currently no rotation on the ground for tornadoes.
Response to the disaster is coordinated at the Emergency Operations Center, set up in the Public Safety Center.
The purpose of the EOC is to have a central place of coordination for resource requests. In order to alleviate the burden on the communication centers, we consolidate our operations and put it all in one place, so they have one-stop shopping for all the multiple incident command posts. We would activate the EOC in a situation, any major situation that occurred in Winston-Salem, Forsyth County, or any other municipality, and that means that ones with multiple casualties, large property damage, or any kind of a significant impact on the population, we'd have to have an EOC open to handle a resource request. The city manager would make that call, or the county manager, depending on where we are, or it could be a municipal manager from another municipality, would make the call based on our recommendation. They in turn would inform their elected officials, but they wouldn't have to wait for the actual okay from the elected officials to accomplish that opening. The EOC is staffed by a wide variety of agencies. What we'd have to do, we would not necessarily have them all come at the same time. It would be a situationally dependent based on what the situation is, where the impact is, what areas of impact, and what we would need to do for recovery. We've got law enforcement, fire, and emergency medical services, of course. In addition to that, we may have private utilities, Duke Power, Duke Energy, Piedmont Natural Gas, or we may have the American Red Cross. They would be a direct impact on the population. If there is a direct impact on the population, we may have other agencies. We may have transportation, Department of Transportation, both at the local level and the state level. We could have information technology to help us along as far as making sure that we have everything documented. The agency here has a specialized function. Again, it may or may not involve their day-to-day operation.
We call the SimCell number to confirm.
Yes, we have 4 basic levels of EOC activation, with 4 being the least serious on day-to-day operation and level 1 being the most serious. This will be a level 1 activation because we've got nearly every agency involved. We may have situations where there are fewer agencies involved, but today's exercise, for the purposes of today's exercise, this is a level 1 activation with all agencies involved.
Last call, first shift. Last call, first shift.
The EOC will be activated until we feel that there's no longer a need for it.
65 Highway 66 South, Cross Street to South Park Drive and Union Drive.
To further test readiness, this disaster drill included a second location in Kernersville.
What the scenario is a tornado came from Louisville and has worked its way to Kernersville, and the tornado has caused these trailers to be overturned and damaged. The people here are the workers that are working here at the freight terminal. What we have is a drum of hydrochloric acids being simulated with water and vinegar, and we've got another drum of sodium cyanide. It's being simulated with flour. The first-in engine company, their job is to get here, try to identify what the materials are, how many victims that they have, call for additional resources and help. Initial first responders are just wearing turnout gear, which is designed to protect them basically from fires. It's used for, everyday firefighting work. It gives very limited chemical protection. When the hazmat team gets here, you'll see them probably dress out in either level B or level A suits. They'll look like plastic coveralls, or if they go into the level A, they'll look like the moon suits.
They told us to come on up, they sent somebody to back y'all up.
Yeah, the hazmat team's got air monitoring equipment or gas detectors. They've also got what we call colorimetric equipment. It's stuff that changes colors when it's used on certain chemicals, like pH paper, Draeger tubes, stuff like that. We've also got a machine called the Hazmat ID, which is a portable infrared spectrometer. They can actually put a sample on that and hopefully identify or classify.
The Triage paper has turned red.
Basic measures such as isolating the area, denying entry, calling for additional help, resources. Also, you may be looking at evacuating people downwind from the incident. And then they're going to use reference materials, computer programs, once they identify or classify the materials in order to determine exactly what they're going to do. That would be the hazmat team. That's also going to determine how they decon the patients and treat the patients. First, we can do what's called an emergency decontamination, where we simply just pull the booster line off the fire truck and use it to wet people down. Other option that we've got is a technical decon, where we set up a tent with several stations in it. The clothes will be removed, they'll be wet down, they'll be washed with soap and water until they're safe enough that we can transport them to the hospital.
The drill concluded with operations at the Kernersville Medical Center, which